What's up, world? My name is Syene Jasmine. I represent NewPride.tv. I'm a social justice activist, author, student, and more importantly, I'm just like all of you. The first question I see right here: are we at a point in this country where we could say, from a civil rights, social justice, diversity perspective, that we have won? If so, what have we won? Um, I don't think we won anything. I think we won for the most part with civil rights, with affirmative action. But at the end of the day, what it takes to really make real change in this country and in this context is economic justice. And that hasn't been achieved. We're still waiting for our 40 acres in the mill. So I think education is great. I think that we have advanced, but the battle's never won. As the old saying goes, well, for my generation, it's never done to the it's nobody's winning until the fat lady starts singing. So the fat lady hasn't sung yet, and we need to. Well, what we need is economic justice. So that's really it. Second question I see: what real societal changes have occurred because of the civil rights movement? Well, you got to put into context what the civil rights movement was. It was a battle to end segregation. It was a battle to end many of the injustices taking place in the African American community. So, what happens is once we are segregated and become integrated, we assimilate to certain cultures. We do business, and this had its drawbacks and its advantages. But right now, in this present day, uh, we're starting to see segregation, not necessarily from uh, a racist point of view, but from a class point of view. So the majority of people who have low class or who don't have the economic means to afford certain things tend to be minorities, such as African Americans, Latinos. So most importantly, segregation won the legal battle, but I mean, and civil rights movement won the legal battle, but for the most part, uh, we didn't win the economic battle, and we're fighting that right now. Um, we're undergoing significant political and economic shifts in this country. To what degree are these changes a result of our success or failure to address shifting cultural and social norms that embrace diversity and reject assimilation? Okay. Um, yes, we are undergoing significant political and economic shifts in this country. To what degree these changes are a result of our success or failure to address shifting cultural and social norms that embrace diversity and reject assimilation? Um, you got to put into context once again. The purpose of the civil rights movement was to somewhat assimilate into this American culture. So what happens is, if when America is doing great, we reap the benefits. When America is doing bad, we reap the disadvantages. So right now, for example, the economy is not where it used to be, and it doesn't seem like anytime soon it's going to get any significantly better. So we're going to reap the disadvantages because we're at the low totem pole of the economic structure in this country. So that being said, that's the disadvantages of assimilating to a certain culture. How important is race, gender, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic standing, and our decision-making process about work, family, religion, etc. It is real important to make uh, to say that race is not a factor. Um, you know, I know I can speak from it. Myself, my name is Syene Jasmine. So my name can be, you can assume that I'm Muslim, which I'm not. My mother just wanted to name me Syene. But because of the way people view Muslims in the country, they see the name Syene like, oh no, who is that? Luckily, my last name is Jasmine, and that's a more feminine name in this country, but it's actually French. It's Jasmine. But what I'm basically saying is that race matters. If I can go out, if a liberal person, a white person, goes out and says they believe in all these progressive values, they believe in free healthcare, free education for all of America, then they're considered a liberal. progressive. But if a black person says it, he's considered a militant, a Black Panther. And in this country, uh, being a militant African American is deemed controversial, and people tend to neglect those kind of people. For example, Minister Louis Farrakhan. So it definitely matters. Are these factors important to the freedom to generation, or have we truly moved to a post-racial society? No. I mean, I think racism has definitely improved, but it's corporate racism. I mean, look at the prison industrial complex. You have these same prisoners who are working in the prison system. Once they're in prison working for these big corporations, making all this money, and once they get out, they can't get a job from the same companies that hired them while they were in prison. So the irony there is crazy. Let me go on and on. Let's go to the next question. As we successfully include formerly excluded groups, are we moving from primarily distinguishing based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religion to distinguishing based on class? Have we traded the fight for human dignity for the pursuit of privilege? I agree with that. I think that when it comes down to it, in this country right now, it's coming down to class. It's either you're rich, you're wealthy, you're middle class, or you're poor. And I see it on a daily basis. And unfortunately, there's going to get to a point in this nation where it's going to be that you're poor or you're rich. And until the poor wake up, it will continue to be like that, unfortunately. What does this younger generation truly believe about diversity and inclusion? How do they view social justice issues? What are the definitions? These are a lot of questions. Okay. All right. This younger generation, I can't speak for the whole my whole generation, but I can speak for myself. Um, I think that we live in a diverse culture where you have more open homosexuals and gays and different people. I think we tend to accept it. We have a different um, mindset than our previous generations, which is a good thing. Um, yeah, I think it's a great thing. So if that's one plus I say for my generation, that's it. We have an open mindset. We have so many African American homosexuals who are coming out the closet and walking openly. I mean, you go to Washington D.C. and you see them flamboyantly displaying who they are, which is can be a bad thing for some people, but for the most part, I have to give them credit where credit is due. At least they're coming out proud to say who they are instead of remaining on a quote unquote down low. So being homosexual is one example. We also have a close relationship with Latinos. I mean, you go in the state of North Carolina, you see plenty of Mexicans. So as this country shifts, there's going to be a continuous of the black, brown, LGBTQ population altogether. All right. Time magazine reported that slavery is at the highest point in the history of civilization. Atlanta has higher rates of child prostitution and a struggling public education system. In the home of King Carter and Cope, how is this possible? How can we, a city too busy to hate, have as much diversity as we have and struggle with these issues, along with hyper-segregation in our communities, high poverty rates, etc.? Is this a reflection of what the freedom to we actually are becoming less caring, more selfish, instead of more inclusive, less fortunate? I'm not surprised about Atlanta. Like I said before, the prison industrial complex. You look at all these people going to prisons, and they're working. I mean, these guys are working for nothing. And okay, I understand they went to prison, have to pay the price, but these corporations are making a killing off of their work, essentially. Secondly, I'm not really sure about the child prostitution that is going on right now. It's really unfortunate. I've seen one article, so I can't necessarily speak on that right now. But the struggling public education system, it's tough because I went to private school growing up, and I didn't attend public school till high school. But I never forget. And this was a good public high school I went to in Brooklyn. Uh, and if Atlanta is any kind of representation of this, then I can understand why it's like this. So I never forget the first day of high school, the teacher's talking, and a student blatantly disrespected the teacher. Now I went to private school, let me remind you. And in private school, you can't talk to the teacher like that. They know your parents, and they're gonna say, "Well, I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna tell your parents what you're doing." And unfortunately, my mother right there, you know, we weren't playing that. My mother, you couldn't do that in private school. Everybody basically knew each other. Why you gotta do all that?
Can you see me?
Yeah,
you can see me. No, I'm
fine. You're fine.
Come on, take me out there.
Okay. And unfortunately, that's what the culture was. But in public school, it wasn't necessarily like that, and it was a culture where people get away with being blatantly disrespectful. So, with that being said, if that mindset persisted back from kindergarten, then I can imagine how they were educated. I mean, after a while, the teacher would stop caring. So, there's a lot of effects, negative effects of the struggling public education system, and unfortunately, many of these individuals don't tend to get jobs and tend to get in trouble, and they get sent right off to prison. Last question. What are solutions to moving us forward as one nation in an increasingly diverse America where everyone demands their say? That's hard. There's so many solutions. I think at this point, there has to be a review of the economic policy of this nation. I mean, that's the only way I think this nation will survive. Because, like I said before, there's a widening gap between the rich and the poor. I mean, my family, we used to be middle class. We're not middle class no more, and we're definitely not rich. So that goes to show you where we stand. But make a long story short, there has to be an improvement of the economic policy. I'm not advocating any kind of certain policy, but there has to be the playing field has to be level, point blank. I mean, that's just what it is. And if it isn't, we might be in some deep trouble. So I'm hoping that the leaders of this country, not only President Obama, say, okay, this is a situation. This is what we can do to improve the situation. And as far as African Americans, man, there's so many problems we have, but I think we've done a good job these last 10 years. All these grassroots organizations out there, such as Freedom's a Generation. So I think that we have to continue to do what we do, but urge our celebrities out there. I mean, in Atlanta, you have rappers like Gucci Mane, T.I., Ludacris. You have all these hip hop stars who have an impact on the community. And not to say they haven't been doing that, doing their job, I mean, as far as helping the community, but the impact can be so much greater. And I think once we realize that potential, the sky's the limit. Other than that, my name is Syene Jasmine. Thank you. Peace.